Hi everyone, welcome back. You're still with us here on the C Morning Show. It's 7:15 in the AM and time for our first morning discussion. But a quick question. Have you ever wished to have more self-control? Now, as it turns out, this can actually be achieved through knowledge of our ego state, which consists of organized and interconnected patterns of behavior, thoughts, as well as feelings. Now, this term, ego state, was first introduced by Canadian psychiatrist Eric Berne, who also developed the theory of transactional analysis.
And yes, Paul, the answer to our question for me personally, especially as a mother, yes, I really do wish that I can have a self-control. And by understanding, as you mentioned before, the ego state, it can also benefit us in so many ways. And to talk more and understand more about the matter, let's welcome mental health practitioner and also researcher, Maizan Dianati. So good morning, Maizan.
Good morning.
How are you?
Welcome here on the C Morning Show once again. And we want to know more, as mentioned before, which is ego state. What is actually ego state?
Okay, so maybe start from ego first.
Okay.
Ego in a Latin language refers to I or self, right? So ego state is a term which consists of like how we behave, things, feels based on three different personality states. So one is parent, 2 is adult, and 3 is child. So this different state like would really influence like how we would do our problem solving and how we would socialize with other people.
Okay, so those are, okay, so break it down again. So those are there different types? Is that what you just explained? Are there different types of ego states?
Yeah.
Okay, so you explain, let's go through them again real quick.
Yeah. Parent, adult, and child.
What if I'm both?
Yeah, I think like everyone would have it. So
Right.
yeah, so maybe these three states represent like different types of our personality that we might develop along the time that we are growing up, right?
see.
So for example, if we are going to the parent state first, so
Okay.
it refers to how we act and how we feel. That influence based on like our authoritative figures used to do before. Yeah? So for example,
Not just
Yeah.
us as a parent, but what our parents
yeah.
do to us. Okay.
So let's say like you are facing a difficult situation, like stressful situation, and before you used to see your parents used to be like very neurotic or anxious about that. So maybe once you face like similar types of those stressful situations, you would
React in
be
similar
yeah.
ways.
So you would like imitate like the things that your parents used to do and adapt it as your own like personality, right? At that time. And for adult state, so it's actually like the goal of the state that we need to achieve because it's relating to who we are right now. So the ability to really think logically based on the evidences and the logical reasons that are available on the present time.
Right.
And the child one, it's actually not referring to the childish side of you, but it's more relating to the coping mechanism that used to be working when you are a child. So for example, if you used to live in an environment, like in a house environment where, like withdraw from your, from the conflicts that happen around you was the easiest way to get out of your situation. So maybe like later on, if you have relationship problems with other, you would tend to withdraw as well because you would feel that, like it's something that would like make
Safest
your
way for us.
inner child like safe, so you would tend to do it again. So yeah.
And for the parent state, because you mentioned that it's not only as a parent, it doesn't have to be your biological parent, it is said. It can also be someone that you look up to, an authoritative figure.
Parental role.
Yes. But how about if we grow up, we have so many, parental figures around us, probably from our grandparents, our caregivers, our caretakers, nannies probably here in Indonesia, teachers as well. How will they stand out and how will they influence us more depending on their roles? Is it because if we feel more nurtured by them, or is it probably because we're more scared of one or the other?
Yeah, so I think it depends on those senses of what's called like the how we perceive these authoritative figures, right? So let's say there are loads of parent state here, like the nurturing part, the controlling part, maybe like the things that we would associate with security, things like that. So maybe it can be stem from like one or two dominant people only. If you really have like a very strong attachment with someone when you were a kid, but let's say if you are growing up like exposing yourself with loads to loads of authoritative figures, you can maybe like adapt something like one role that's relating to one parent state, like to one figure, and the other one to others. So yeah, like it doesn't have to be dominated by your parents. So if you are exposing yourself to loads of people, even teachers, like if you have like a strong attachment, strong connections towards your teacher, like they can also be like one strong authoritative figure that can influence your parents.
So there should be this primary one
Yeah.
that you has the bigger influence. Now, I mentioned prior to our discussion that this is all very new to me because the word
Yeah.
ego, whenever I hear the word ego, we always think about selfishness because
yes.
it's egotistical. Like that's the word we always think of. How can we use this ego state for us to be more self-aware, to be more connected with ourselves? How do we become more aware of our ego state?
Okay, because like it's relating to ego, right, which is our self-identity. So
Okay.
Ego state is a part of it, but also one of the things that can complement this is having a good self-awareness. So let's say, yeah, like for example, if we are not aware about this ego state, right? So I'm sure like no matter how much we know about ourselves, there would be certain situations where we feel like, okay, like I'm in stressful situations and why did I behave
Right.
yeah,
Okay,
like
that makes
differently, right? Like, so why I did that, like why do I feel guilty right now that I do those types of behaviors?
In fact,
and
we
actions?
seldom even think about that. Sometimes that's just reactionary a
Yeah,
lot of times, right?
sometimes
Okay.
like very automatic, right?
Right,
Like these
okay.
responses. So by having more awareness about this ego state, like we would understand more, okay, like maybe those impulsive reactions, it's because something kind of like triggering like our child state. That
Okay, gotcha.
maybe at that time, because when I was a kid, when I used to be like in these situations, I feel very threatened and I had to do this. So that's why like those automatic responses happen. So if you don't have self-awareness, you would continuously like feel guilty or confused about these reactions. But if you have self-awareness, like you would understand, okay, there are mechanisms about like my reactions, my responses. So like if you have more understanding about this, in the end, like you can anticipate things better, and you would know that okay, like maybe this thing is automatic responses, but I also have my ability to change the state into like the other more productive ones. So for example, yeah, like being withdrawn, maybe it's working with my parents before, but now like I'm dealing with other people now, so maybe we can activate the other ones. So maybe like I need to be more firm in the situation, so activate the under parent state instead, or maybe like changing into the adult state that you assure yourself, okay, like I'm already capable to deal with things on my own. I don't need to imitate anything. I don't need to keep my inner child safe. So I just need to react based on like how it is at this moment.
But
right?
someone like you would be very familiar with psychology, but how would like us, just regular people, know what part of our ego state that we need to improve on? Because right, because we do react to probably 1,000 things a day.
Yeah.
Which ones do we know? I don't want to have to think about each of my reactions every time, but how do we know what are some of the things we need to make ourselves better?
So first of all, I think it's always better to do like reflection every day, right? So what are the things that maybe during this day you feel that you show like a productive response when you are interacting, whether it's at work, for example, family, with your children, with your wife, with your husband, so with your friends. So try to kind of like try to pinpoint the mechanism, right? So, okay, like maybe today, why do I feel guilty about this? Why do I feel anxious about this thing? So, and then try to see it, okay, like maybe in the end, like if I reflected on the past few months, years, like this mechanism is always coming out, and sometimes I don't have control over this. So try to find like, okay, like what are the reasons?
Just some of the things that you're not happy with. I think we all know that part at least, right? Okay, that makes sense.
And then how do you know? Because sometimes when we receive or we absorb interactions with our parents growing up, we do not realize how they have a certain influence upon us.
Shaped us, right?
Yes, they have shaped us over the years, and then probably we just realize when we're all grown up how we handle certain social situations at work, with our families, with our spouses. How do we know that certain behaviors from our parents or from our, parental figures growing up has shaped the way we respond to them. And how can we look back? Probably some of us have traumatic experiences that we do not realize.
Because sometimes if something happened when we were a child, sometimes we have awareness that, okay, like this thing is actually not right, or this thing is actually right, but maybe at that time, because we have limitation on our cognitive skills, right? So we didn't really know that it's something that can impact us. But of course, our parents' reaction to us, it's one of the things that can really shape us as a child, right? But the first thing that you need to realize that, don't blame yourself. Like if you feel, okay, I should have known this better before, or I should have blamed my parents for this, because maybe first of all, try to get back into your adult state. Try to remind yourself, okay, like what I have right now, what I'm experiencing right now, all of the stressful things that I'm having right now, even though it can be influenced by the past, but I am able to take a response that would solve the present situations as it is at the moment, right? So, it can be shaped by what happened before, but the thing that you need to assure yourself more that right now it's already different from how it was before. I interacted with different people right now, and I have the ability that I have built in order to fix whatever the situations that I'm having at the moment.
Many have said that past traumas, depending on how severe the trauma is quite difficult to overcome. And in fact, even some people are aware of past traumas, they still are unable to change the course of their own actions because it is difficult to deal with unless you go see a professional.
Yeah.
So how much can we control in regards to self-trauma affecting our ego state?
Okay, so for this one, we need to think about the intensities of what's called how much these things can be intrusive for us, our daily functionings, right? So try to see maybe whenever I interact with other people, that although it has some little resemblance to how it was in the past, why do I have a very bad reaction? So for example, panic attack, or maybe you can blow up immediately. So if you feel it's already something that's beyond than the normal state, or you feel that you cannot manage it anymore, you have reoccurring nightmares, you cannot go to sleep, you would isolate yourself because you feel that everything is dangerous. So maybe it's a sign that you cannot handle it on your own, right? But if you are still able to, let's say, get on with your daily functionings, it can trigger you a bit, but after 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you're able to soothe it yourself. So maybe it's a sign that, okay, there's a trauma, but it's something that you can manage on your own still.
So this is something that is ongoing. It's not something that you can probably change overnight. This is a process that
there's
you
a
have
process.
to continue to do.
And speaking of process, you also mentioned there's the parental state, which of course we can pass on to our children. And then as parents,
I already have.
Yes. Same
many.
here. It's an ongoing process for me, for a 3-year-old boy at home. How can we know how to pass on, good parental influence from knowing self-control?
Give them better ego state when they grow up as well, right?
So I think exposing themselves to different type of roles that you can have whenever you're in unfavorable situations. So let's say show them the nurturing part, like if you are facing tough situations, you need to be kind to yourself, you need to be kind to other people as well, if you see someone is struggling, but don't focus on this one thing only. You also need to expose themselves to other types of parental roles. So for example, okay, if you feel unsafe and there's no one around, so what type of things that you can do in order to deal with the situation. So the dominant side, maybe it's better as well for you to introduce to your children. But the things that need to be communicated is why you need to have these different roles, why you need to know these different roles, why do I need to pass it down to you, because it's something that would be helpful on a certain situation. So and then along the time that the children grow up, their ability to reason things also would expand, right? So giving them more explanations based on their age, that okay, in this situation maybe it's better for you to rely on yourself more, but in these situations you need to remember like before, like how I used to show you that maybe for this one you need to be more kind, like to be more relaxed in this situation. So yeah, like by exposing themselves to all of this type of roles and explaining to them like to what extent that these roles would be helpful.
Telling
like,
them the why behind every action.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it is said that there is ego state therapy as well. Can you please tell us more? Is it needed by everyone to go into this ego state therapy? Because it is the form
who would
of
need it, right?
Yes.
Like, do I need it?
Yes, because it's the form of knowing ourselves. 'Cause how well do we know ourselves?
Right.
So it's a good thing to build up those sense of self-awareness. So let's say, yeah, like for example, you're confused of your reaction. Like, why can I be very mad at something that's that actually like not very big, right? Or why if I see this type of person, like why do I feel that I need to escape from the interaction? So if you feel that you have certain things like this, like unexplainable situations that's always there and maybe sometimes can be automatic, it would be recommended to do the ego state therapy. So during this therapy, like the therapist during the intervention like would help you to understand, right? Like, okay, like what types of reactions, either the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that are unexplainable right now, and try to build up like some kind of script. Yeah, like this thing is the responses, but what are the things that causing it? Like using the ego state, and later on, if we already see that this is not a productive one, the therapist would help you to reframe these things, right? So, okay, like maybe you have these automatic responses, but now like try to get into your adult state at this moment, like which type of states that maybe you need to deactivate and reactivate like during these types of particular situations. So.
Okay, so I would like to think that I'm much more self-aware now than I was years ago when I was younger. But it's so hard to be self-aware all the time, isn't it? Unless you're a professional and you already understand psychology. A lot of times we just go throughout the day thinking we're self-aware, but then we have these reactions anyway. Can somebody be, how close can one be to being fully self-aware? Do you think? Is that quite rare?
Being fully self-aware, I think it's impossible. Even
Yeah.
like, let's say, psychologists, psychiatrists, like there would be some sometimes, right? That you just feel like, okay, like you stepped out without any reason. So I think fulfilling it as a goal, like being fully self-aware all the time, is unrealistic type of goal. So that's why you need to have like room for flexibility there. So okay, like maybe it's good that for 80% or 70% of our time, like we would be able to predict our reactions and to know how would our reaction like would cause certain impacts to ourselves and other people. But yeah, like if these things happen where you just cannot do it, like first of all, don't blame yourself, because like certain things just happen out of our control, right? But the things that you need to do, once we are aware that we're doing those unproductive types of responses, maybe try to reflect back on it and try to find, okay, like the next time these things happen, maybe it's better if I respond like this. So more about like self-reflection and how to change it, right?
That's the reason I ask is because I just don't want our viewers to get the wrong idea and be too hard on themselves if then this keeps on happening and happening, because I'm sure it's quite a normal thing for it to happen all the time. But I guess for us to be aware of it later is better than not being aware at all.
That's true.
And we have to also remember that it's a process. It's
Yes.
an ongoing thing, right? So there's no end. So we have to keep applying it in our everyday lives.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have a much better understanding. Honestly, I came into this conversation completely lost as to what ego state is, but I think we all, to a certain extent, understand what we know, we feel uncomfortable with throughout our days as well. And I think it's better for us to be more self-aware through these things. All right, thank you so much, Maizan.
Thank you, Maizan, for coming here on the C Morning Show.
Hope you found it as insightful as we did.
Yes, Paul. And of course, we now have to take another break.
Yes.
But after the break, we'll be back with more stories from all around the world on the C Morning Show. So don't go anywhere here on C Today.